Hey you guys, it is Jim Warrior, and I am really sick. Uh, I've been sick for a few days, and so usually I make a video like every 2 days, but I haven't had the chance to because I've been feeling really crappy, and I wanted to make one today though because this is usually the day where I make my YouTube Pagan Challenge video. So yes, this week's video topic is I have to look at it. Uh do you have slash how did you find a matron slash patron? And I'm wearing like a really big shirt too, so if it looks kind of crazy, it's because I'm just wearing this huge loungy shirt. I am having a small window of like clarity in my head. um and I wanted to make a video. So, cuz it is a challenge. So, uh yes, I do have a matron and a patron. Um, I don't usually refer to them as such, like to myself. But I also have more. I think for me, my answer to this kind of goes beyond matron and patron. Like I feel like I kind of have like a whole family of deities that I work with regularly that support me, and I know there's no doubt about it. I know that that is because I have no real family in my physical life. My family's very scattered. They all dislike each other. Um, no one talks to one another. It's really ridiculous. Occasionally, I'll hear from my mother, and occasionally, I'll hear from my sister, but that's it. I don't hear it at all from my brother. And then, of course, our extended family, they really hate each other. Like, they're very stereotypically, like, Irish in the sense that they're always drinking and like fighting and like not getting along with each other and they hate each other. So so anywho, I digress. Matron and patron. So yes, I of course if you watched my channel before I follow Morgan or the Morgan. I just call her Morgan. Um one because I think it's because I'm southern and we just shorten everything as much as we can. But also because I met the Morgan through her guise as Morgan Le Fay. That's how she came to me when I was right out of high school. So I had to have been like 18, 17 or something. Uh, and that was the first real deity that I ever really truly worked with. And I still do. She's like my mother. Sometimes I just call her mama. And like lately, I've been watching a lot of Joey Morris's videos. And she calls herself a daughter of the Morgan, and she calls her goddess Morgan. She calls her like a motherly term too that I can't pronounce the same way that she does. For some reason, I can never recall it and remember how she says it, but it's basically like mama. And I think that's really cool. I've seen a lot of parallels between people who follow the Morgan in whatever name or guise, and we all seem to come from like troubled family backgrounds and stuff. But maybe that's just Morgan's jam. I don't know. But no, Morgan. I love Morgan like deeply. She's never left my side ever. And so I kind of see her as like my matron or like my mother. And then there's Odin, who a lot of the time I just call Papa or Papa Odin. And we all know Odin. I don't have to explain him. And yeah, they're both war deities, which says so much about me and my path, I think. Um, and then I have Vivian, um, who I consider to be the. You know, actually, I'm going to stop myself. I always say who I consider to be, like as if it's maybe not true. I'm just going to start speaking things from my truth, like right now. So, anywho, there's Vivian, who's the Lady of the Lake. And she's a little kooky. Oh, but I really love her. She's kind of got this grandmotherly or like wise aunt or aunt vibe. Uh, she's really generous and compassionate and warm, as opposed to a lot of other deities that I work with. Um, and then there's like a whole other assortment of deities that come and go. Like those three I work with pretty consistently. But then like Ganesha, the elephant god from Hinduism, Apollo, usually in the form of Apollo Belonus or Apollo Bel. Sometimes just call him Bel, which is like a merging of two deities, Apollo and then Bel, who is a Celtic god of fire, who was Romanized as Belenus and then merged as Apollo Belenus. I hope this is making sense. I sometimes worship and worship that spirit. Jack was actually a really big influence on me very early on, like the Jack and the Green, and I worked with him throughout the year in all of his different guises. Jack and the Green, uh, Jack O' Lantern, Jack Frost. So that's it. Still, I mean, he still comes around, but not as often now. It was a very childlike spirit for me to work with to help me heal my inner child. But I guess those are my mainstays that come and go and I work with. As for how I found them, that there's a different answer for all of those, really. Um, Morgan, I found specifically like I found out on a nature trail, and I uh, had already heard of her and wanted to work with her, and had dedicated myself to paganism, and had called on her and the god Shiva to witness it, sort of. And so I knew I really wanted her, and so like the more I tried to reach out to her, the more elusive she became. So I went out to this trail, and I've talked about this in another video, but I went out to this trail, and I sat on this rock overhanging, like off of a cliff hanging over the river, and I just decided to let myself be open to her rather than go chase after her. I just kind of said, okay, my chakras are aligned and I am open. What now? And then she came to me, and it was a very emotional experience, and she's been with me ever since. Vivian came shortly after that. I don't remember specifically how, but I want to say that there was something. I probably haven't written down in one of my old journals, which I've been going through a lot of my old ones, like this one, from years ago, to try to get some answers for this week's topic and next week's. But I think Vivian came shortly after, and it was because I was asking for some kind of healing, I think. And Morgan was like, "Let me take you to this other spirit." It was kind of very much like I was there. Like I astral project a lot to where the gods are rather than letting them come to me. I kind of like to go. I just astral travel a lot. I like astral projection. I like journeying through the realms, and I like creative visualization. So I do that a lot. So anyway, I was in Avalon, and I had asked Morgan for some kind of healing. I don't know what. I don't remember. Probably something to do with family, I'm sure. And she was like, "I have someone for you. Let's go. Let's go. Let's go to this hut down by this waterfall." And so we went through this forest filled with mist, of course, and got to this little hut that I could so vividly picture in my head. I should really draw it sometime. Uh, it's just like a magical hut. It just screams sorceress or witch. I really love it. Well, anyway, we walked down to it because it's kind of down a hill by a waterfall. And so we go down to her hut, and it's always glowing from inside. And went in, and there was this woman like frantically running around this hut, throwing things into this cauldron. And she seemed like crazy. Like her hair was very wild, and she seemed very like frantic and crazy, but like that genius crazy. You know what I mean? Like that mad scientist crazy. And she was just doing this ferocious spell, something, so making this potion or something. And she turned and looked at us like, what? Like, what are you doing here? And I remember just thinking, like, Morgan, is this a good idea? Like, is this okay? Who is this? And she kind of cast this glamour on herself. She literally, like, turned and looked at us like, I didn't, well, like, kind of with the face, like, I wasn't expecting company. And she, like, did this snap like this, like, and like her whole image changed. Like she cast a glamour on herself, and suddenly she looked very kept, very clean and kept together, and like very beautiful and blue, and this like red hair that was going gray, and she's really gorgeous. But anyway, and then that's when I come to know her as Vivian. We started working together, and so now anytime I have like now in my life, fast forward like what 10 years or more, whenever I am working really big magic or doing complicated spell work, which most of the time is very instinctive for me. I don't follow a book or a preconceived idea. I'm just like, I'm about to do some magic, aren't I? Do 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 do. Like, and I start to do things. But usually Vivian is who I call upon to help me find like correspondences like in the moment with my instincts and her knowledge and etc. etc. Like if I'm trying to heal someone else, I'll call on Vivian to lend me her power. Uh, Vivian is like my magic guide. She's like this bottomless vessel of ether, which is what I call the fifth element. So she's like this bottomless pit of ether that I can use, and she shares so much love and compassion with me. Like I've never felt her be anything other than loving and compassionate. I've never felt her be angry or negative in any way. She's always so positive and so bright and good. I love Vivian, which is such a strong contrast to Morgan, because Morgan is always like this ass kicker for me, and she keeps me in line and like kills my ego constantly and makes me do hard things and keeps me from being stagnant. And then there's Papa, my Odin, who is like I don't have words for it because I don't want to get too emotional. But I didn't grow up with a father, in my life. Like my mom raised us alone, and so I never had a father. I've never met my father. I've tried several times. It didn't work out. But I never met my father. I've never seen a picture of my father except for one where he was like 15 years old. Um, and I've never heard good things about my father. Um, so when I found Odin, which was much later than these goddesses, Vivian Morgan I found very, very early on in my practice, right out of high school. Whereas Odin I didn't find until about 2011, which I guess is starting to get some time between it now. But it was like 2011, and I only know that because I was literally just reading through this and saw where I started first working with Odin. And Odin came in and uh, really cut through my like cynicism and my jadedness. I was a very jaded like 20, 22, 23 year old, like acting like I was in my late 40s and I was really jaded and like knew things about life and where and people and how they worked, and I just I had gotten really cynical really early. And he came in and really warmed me up again and taught me what a true warrior is, and taught me how to channel my anger and my pain. He taught me a lot of different magical techniques. He taught me to work with gems, which obviously has been huge for me. That's my name. Uh, so he came in and he fathered me, and he still continued to be a father. Um, Still continues to be a presence in my life. And then, there are all these other deities that come and go for specific purposes, like I named before. And then there is Priya, who I've never talked about out loud, except for to very, very close friends, like people that I consider my sisters. They're the only two people that I've ever talked about Priya to. So here you go. Priya, you're getting your moment. Priya is a spirit that I see as like a wind elemental or like an air elemental spirit. And she's Indian. Although as I say this, I hear her keep saying, "Well, I'm technically Pakistani, but let's not get it complicated for you." So anywho, before I give you a history lesson about Pakistan and India and how they're really the same peoples, but anywho, uh, so Priya is a spirit who came to me probably around 2010, 2009, so 6 or 7 years ago, and at the time I wasn't sure if I really believed in past lives or anything like that. I have since come to my own definition of what reincarnation means, which is not the traditional vocabulary of what reincarnation is. I'll probably make a video, I guess, soon. Now that I've brought it up, I feel like I should explain my views on reincarnation and karma, because they're really not the textbook definition of reincarnation. But she'd come to me and said that we were sisters in a past life. Me, her, and another female spirit called Karima, who I don't ever see or work with. Karima is like gone now. She's somewhere else. Her energies have dispersed. But or we just have nothing to talk about, but or work with. But Priya is this wind spirit woman who is all about music and dance and creativity. She's like a spirit of creation, of creativity, um, of air element. And I guess now that I'm thinking about it, that makes sense. But she's just kind of like a fun spirit who gives me that family connection that I really desire. Um, she always reminds me to like think before I act and to to take a moment and just be. She's very peaceful and she encourages me to sing and dance a lot, which is fine with me. Um, and she's my connection to India, which I've talked about in other videos that I've always felt so connected to, and it's because I feel like I have lived there so many times. I feel like a part of me still lives there right now. I've always felt like part of my energy is in India, and that the moment I ever go to India physically, a part of my soul will come back to me, and part of my mind, of myself that I feel like I'm missing, will merge with me. And yes, actually, I just got a memory of doing a visualization with her once, or a travel, an astral journeying, where she took me on these wind currents. Like, it was like this astral wind. I hope it's not getting too weird, but I've just never talked about things like this blatantly out loud before. But it's like Priya took me once on this journey on wind, because she's a wind elemental, right? So she is the wind. And it's like we flew, like we glided. My spirit came out of my body and like we glided over the ocean and all the way to India. And my spirit was there. And I remember landing down on the physical earth of India. And I remember it was like in the middle of this city and there was a lot of hustle and bustle. And I remember thinking, I wonder if people who are conscious, like sensitive or pagan or whatever, can see my spirit right now and think that maybe I'm a dead person or something. Because I remember thinking that someone looked at me very oddly, like as if they could really see me. But I remember as soon as I touched the earth, I cried. Like I cried, and it was a big deal because at the time I hadn't cried in years and years and years. Like for real, I had not cried. I had become so numb. I remember crying, and my heart felt like so ripped open and like painful, but like in a good way, if that makes sense. And anywho, I just remembered that, so I felt like I had to say it out loud and share it. But matron and patrons, I have them, and I have more. I have a family. I feel like a family support system of spirit guides and gods and goddesses, etc. And I'm always open to whatever they're going to teach, and I'm always open to new spirit guides and new gods and goddesses, and I'm constantly trying to work with new ones, and sometimes I kind of get rejected. Now that I think about it, I've never considered it to be a rejection, but when I think about some, I'm like, wow. The more I try to reach out for them and try to work with them, the more they just kind of go away. Kind of like with Morgan. It was like, in the beginning, why didn't I learn that lesson, I guess? The more I tried to reach out, they were like, no, we will come to you. So there's one in particular that I've been wanting to work with so badly. And now I'm thinking maybe I should just like step back and be like, hey, yo, I'm open to you. But yes, I have them, matron and patrons, etc. And they are a really big part of my life, spiritual and otherwise. Uh, I, I don't, I can't fathom my life without them because we are so interconnected now. I feel like they're almost physical people in my life at times. because I go to them with everything, and I just don't know how I could live my life without them now. That's how closely I feel to my gods, um, to my spirits. But yeah, I guess that's my input. Um, I have them, and that's how I found them, and that's what they do for me, and I really love them, and I just really love them, and I feel super sick right now, so I'm gonna wrap this up really quick before I get sick on camera. um, but peace and love, and namaste and ashe, and all these other wonderful sayings. So, bye, you guys. I hope you're well wherever you are, and I can't wait to watch your videos throughout this week.